Hello there, everybody. This is Josh Lloyd. You know me from the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast and from Basketball Monster, and I'm here to give you the first look at DraftKings. The DraftKings slate for Wednesday in the NBA. Only 6 games. It's a small one, so let's have a look. Hopefully it's not small like your winnings, because your winnings are going to be big. Let's have a look at the games right now. The first one we look at, the Hawks and the Nets. No Spencer Dinwiddie, of course, for Brooklyn, as he is out for the season with that torn ACL, unfortunately. But we're going to have KD and Kyrie back. Now, we've seen them already without Dinwiddie, but unfortunately, there was no Irving or no Durant in that game. So it's hard to get a full judge of things. Will they start Karis LeVert? Will they start Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot? I imagine they start Luwawu-Cabarrot. He won't have anywhere near the same path to production that he had in that first game. And I think, as a consequence, him at $4,000, he might end up being a little bit over-rostered because, people will be looking at what he did in that last game, which was super impressive. There's no doubt about that, but will he be able to continue that? So Luwawu-Cabarrot, if we look at his last game there, 37 fantasy points in 40 minutes. He's not going to have that usage. He's not going to have that production. Now, 4,000 is not a bad salary. There is still value in him there. I think if we're looking for value in this one, Bogdanovic is an interesting one. Now, Danilo Gallinari, he is questionable, and that could have an impact on things. Clint Capella's going to play. Most likely, he's listed as probable, but he's probably on some sort of minutes restriction. Bogdanovic was great last time out. He had 34. He hasn't scored. Well, he's averaging 29 points so far, and he's at under 5,000. I think the matchup is not a bad one for him here. The other guys on Atlanta, like Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, I'm a little bit more hesitant with using them. Same with John Collins at 7,100. But I think people are going to be under-rostering Collins because so many of his games have been plagued by foul issues. He's still producing okay, and he's only at 7,100. Now, I'd only use him in a GPP sort of a format, but there is some upside in using him. Kyrie's at 8,900. The Hawks defense is terrible, so Irving could be worth a look. So could Durant at 8,400. But Durant at 8,400 looks a lot better than Kyrie's price at that 8,900. So I am in on Durant at that salary. No one else. Well, let's talk Trae Young. He's at 9,600. I reckon we're going to find some better options than Trae. Now, Trae's great, obviously, but 9,600, it probably just feels like a little bit too much for me. Next up, we look at Memphis and Boston. Celtics on a back-to-back. Peyton Pritchard. He was really instrumental in them getting the win over Indiana. He was super strong in that last game. He's at 3,400. He had 24 fantasy points in that game. They haven't updated it here on DraftKings. On a back-to-back, maybe they ease off minutes for someone else. Pritchard's going to be in the rotation, and he's a nice, cheap price alternative. Kyle Anderson is a guy, and there's no Ja Morant, of course, for Memphis. So Tyus Jones is going to get the start. I like Kyle Anderson, though. He can handle the ball. He's been shooting it fantastically. $6,000. He looks pretty good. Tyus Jones, they've priced him up already to 5,200, which is not ideal for me. In the last game where he did start for Morant in the second half, he played 34 minutes and he had 25 points in that one. So I'm not super excited about Jones. I think he's all right if he had have kept at a lower price, but they did bump him up $2,100, which to me is just a little bit too much for what Tyus Jones is as a player. Remember, there is still no DeAnthony Melton, though, for this Grizzlies team. Jason Tatum's at 8,600. That's not a bad price for Tatum. The worry you have there, I guess, is that it's a back-to-back, and maybe there's some limit on what he can do. And Jonas Valanciunas at 7,700. He is going to absorb a lot of usage, so I do like that. He's already averaging 40 fantasy points per game, so I think that he is a strong option. Dylan Brooks is going to do the most. We know what Dylan Brooks does. He does the most all the time. He's at 6,200. He's going to get every shot in the world. He's averaging 35 points per game, so he can probably beat that number. The fact that his price has come up it's a little bit worrying, that $700 price rise. It doesn't put him in my group of the best options to use, but he's still a relatively strong guy to take a look at. The next game that we take a look at is one that was an absolute disaster in terms of what happened during it on Tuesday, and that is the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks won that one by pretty much 50 points. We don't know if Jimmy Butler is going to play. Andre Iguodala will play. He sat out on Tuesday. He'll play. If Butler is out, it opens up a lot of things for the Heat. At this point, you got Bam Adebayo at 7,600. I think that looks all right. People will be interested in using him. I think people might overrate Tyler Hero a little bit at 5,400. Now, he did have a really good game in that first matchup between the two teams. But that was without Butler. So if Butler is out, I think I like Hero more. If Butler is in, I'd probably be a little bit more hesitant with using him. The other one I've got to be hesitant with is the big fella, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 10,800. Now, he barely played, and his numbers have not been great at the moment. He's a little bit down. If Butler does play, that will increase Giannis' minutes, most likely, and that would make him an interesting guy to take a look at. Not saying that he is the best one out there, but I think that he is worth looking at, and he's not going to be as poor as he was on, in terms of overall production, as poor as he was on Tuesday. Chris Middleton at the moment can't miss. He's just shooting the lights out. He's at 7,400. Looks to be a rock-solid floor sort of a player, and not much else really there. Like, I'm not massively into Dunk Robinson. I wouldn't hate having a look at KZ Okpala. Started the second half for the Heat, and if Butler is out, maybe he's the guy to look at. It's not going to be a huge upside play, but at $3,000, you know what? Maybe that does work out for you, especially considering how Harkless and Myers Leonard got absolutely roasted by the Bucks, and they played like 2 and 4 minutes to start the game, and then they were out of there. They were done real quickly. Next up, we look at the Lakers. We look at the San Antonio Spurs. LeBron is on the injury report with his ankle problem, so that is obviously important news that we have to pay attention to. The Spurs are still going to be without Derek White, so DeJounte Murray is at 6,100. Murray has been putting up some really good numbers. He's averaging 38 points. He looks like a good one to me here, and I want to see what they do with LaMarcus Aldridge because his minutes have been low, but that also has meant that Jakob Poeltl's minutes have been high. He had 21 in the last game. I'm not saying that he's the greatest option there, but if you're just looking for a low, cash-ish sort of guy who can give you 22, 23, maybe 25 points and a best-case scenario to get some other high-priced guys in, I don't mind Jakob Poeltl as an option. Lonnie Walker's at 4,400. He doesn't do really much else than score, and this game is not a good matchup defensively, so I'm not going to get involved in him. While Anthony Davis at sub 10,000, I like Anthony Davis at sub 10,000. Now, he hasn't been good to start this year, so a lot of people will be fading him. I'd be inclined to go towards him. I think we've got to pay some attention to Keldon Johnson, who is at, if I can find him on this list, he's listed as a shooting guard. Yeah, he should be there. Where is he? I'm missing him somewhere. Oh, there he is. Right in front of me. He is at 5,700, Keldon. He had 43 last game. He should be a 30-point guy here. So I like Keldon Johnson quite a bit. Montrezl Harrell's at 7,000, and that price to me is significantly overpriced. It's too much. There's no way that I would want to spend that on Montrezl Harrell, especially with what we've been seeing from Montrezl Harrell the last couple of games with his defensive inactivities. Let's put it that way. All right, the next game is the Hornets and the Mavericks. I haven't given you the spreads because not all the spreads are out yet. I will tell you what I do know, though. The Nets are 6.5-point favorites. The Lakers are 6-point favorites. And big totals for both of those games, so they're interesting stack games. This one here, the Mavericks are 7.5-point favorites, and the total is a lower 223.5. Joshie Richardson has crept up on the injury report as questionable with a calf issue. PJ Washington's probable with an ankle injury, which he hurt late in the Hornets' last game. If Richardson is out, that's going to give Timmy Hardaway more usage and more minutes. It's going to give Trey Burke, that's his name, Trey Burke an option for more minutes as well to play alongside Luka Doncic. Now, Luka's a great option here at 10.7. I would rather take Luka at 10.7 than I would Yanni at 10.8 at this point. Now, Doncic hasn't really fully got it going into gear, but this could be a 60-pointer for him. The big men for Dallas are a worry in terms of Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber. They haven't really done much, and their salaries are low. If I'm going to flyer on anyone, it's going to be Kleber, but I'm not massively into it. I'm way more into looking at Bismack Biyombo at 4,800. He's playing a lot of minutes. He probably gets you 20 most nights. Not sure his upside is massively high, but he's not a bad play. PJ Washington looks all right to me, 5,400. He had a pretty strong game last time out. He had 41 in that one, in fact. And the matchup, I think, does suit PJ Washington here. Gordon Hayward, they've only priced him to 7,200. I love that for Hayward. This should be close to a 40-pointer, I would imagine, for Gordo. He, to me, looks like an absolute lock to put into a lineup. He has been rolling. He had 49 points last time, and it's 7,000. I don't really see how you go wrong with that. There is a lot of value in Gordon Hayward at that sort of salary. The last game of the night does involve a back-to-back. It does involve the LA Clippers and involves the Portland Trailblazers. No spread out at this point. Kawhi did not play on Tuesday, neither did Marcus Morris. I don't expect Marcus Morris to play on Wednesday. I do expect Kawhi Leonard to return to action. The other injury news we have to pay attention to in this one is Gary Trent, who has didn't play the end of the game against the Lakers. He's dealing with a calf issue, and if he is out, that's going to open up more bench minutes or more bench scoring opportunities probably for Carmelo Anthony, who doesn't mind a shot or two, as we've seen throughout the course of his career. Derek Jones Jr. is at 3,600. He's at 3,600 because he's not very good. But at that price, there is some flyer upside. He's only going to be a low-rostered GPP sort of guy. Same as Robert Covington, who's really struggling. He's at 4,700. I wouldn't want to use those guys in one lineup together, and I wouldn't want to use them liberally, but I think there is enough upside in them. I think people are going to be fading off of Yusuf Nurkic because of how the minutes went with him and Kanter last time out. Again, that puts him in on my radar for GPPs because people will be under-rostering him. His salary has come down by $100. He's still averaging 31 points. He could easily be a 40. He could be a 50-point guy if things go right. Dame Lillard's at 10,000. Not sure about Lillard at 10,000. He's been all right this year. Don't think he's been a $10,000 player most of the time. He hasn't quite been at that level. I'm not sold on that. While Paulie George at 8,500 is not playing at his best. I think we can probably do better. CJ McCollum's been killing it though. He's at 7,900 CJ. He dropped, he's averaging 51 a game. He dropped 50 last game. There is an element of unsustainability to that. He's got massively high steals, big assists. He's shooting the lights out. I think there is a drop-off coming for CJ. The price hasn't gone high enough for me to fade him. If it had jumped to like 8,600, 8,700, I probably would have said no thanks to CJ McCollum because it would have been too high. I wouldn't have been interested in him at that sort of a salary. At this price, though, I do think that he is relatively worthwhile, and I think that he's an option for us over there on DraftKings. All right, that'll do it. That is the first look. We are done and dusted for that. Don't forget, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment down below, and hopefully you guys have some success. I'll see you later.